will soon disappear, and many have disappeared. Their languages are dying. Their languages are dying. Their local knowledge is not valued. Their local knowledge is not considered to be part of what we call intellectual property rights. Indigenous people, guys, are denied also their rights to own the land. To own the land. Consequently, the plight of indigenous persons around the world is such that their basic, fundamental human rights are on attack, are being denied, etc. So consequently, what do they want? What do indigenous people want? Allow me to present to you their wants. First and foremost, they want to be recognized for who they are. Namely, they are distinct groups with their own unique cultures. Indigenous people want to enjoy and pass on to their children their history, their cultures, their traditions, and their modes of internal governance. Secondly, indigenous people want the governments of the countries in which they live to respect their ability to determine for themselves their own destinies. In other words, for indigenous people, the right to self-determination is so important. However, their right to self-determination is totally distinct from the rights to self-determination of persons who were once colonized. Self-determination for those who were once colonized was about political independence. For indigenous people, self-determination relates to autonomy. They want to be autonomous. They are not looking to secede from the governments or the states where they are. They are not looking for secession, but they are looking so that they could be granted more autonomous rights. They want their children in this regard to be educated in their languages, in their traditions, and to worship in their own ways, etc. Number three, indigenous people want to enjoy the same rights as all other people without any discrimination of any kind. They want to be regarded by everyone as full and equal human beings. They want to be protected from genocide. They want to be protected from arbitrary execution, torture, forced relocation, forced assimilation. They want to enjoy their rights to express themselves freely. To express themselves freely. Number four, indigenous persons want to enjoy their rights to land, their rights to resources that they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise. Often, this right conflicts with the needs of the state or other people. They want to participate as equals in resolving the conflicts. Number 5, indigenous people want to be left alone. They want to be left alone. They want armed conflicts that are waged, that are going on in the states in which they live, not to be on their territories. Indigenous people do not want zones of conflict to be on their battlegrounds. Indigenous people want miners, environmentalists, as well as planners to value their land, etc. Have a respect for their land as well as resources. And finally, in Africa, and African governments do also accept the fact that we are all indigenous. And we are all indigenous on the African continent. And by that we mean we were there before the European colonialists invaded. And the fact that all Africans are indigenous to Africa does not necessarily mean that the few indigenous persons who are in Africa should not be protected, ought to be protected and provided for. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the indigenous people want. Indigenous people, not only in the United States, in Canada, Australia, in Latin America, Central America, this is what they want. And this matter has been taken up to the United Nations. And United Nations responded, gentlemen and ladies, on the 13th of September, the year 2007. This was the year when the United Nations adopted for the first time the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Persons. Let me tell you guys, 144 states voted in favor of the declaration. 11 abstained. 4 states voted against. The states that voted against were Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States. But since then, those that voted against, ladies, have changed their position, including the 4 that voted against this declaration. Today, these 4 nation states that voted against the declaration have informed the United Nations that they do support what the declaration is trying to achieve. The declaration is the most comprehensive instrument of for now, dealing with the rights of indigenous people. Secondly, this declaration is considered as a lead instrument in international law protecting the rights of indigenous people. This declaration, though, It's not legally binding. It's not a legally binding document. What is needed is a legally binding document that we will get to soon, guys. But let us examine briefly the substantive elements of this declaration. The declaration itself provides for self-determination, of indigenous persons. Number two, it recognizes their rights to land, the territories, and resources. And one important resource that I think you and I often forget about is that which we call water. Water is one of the most important resources of today. And by the way, guys, individuals do have a right to water. And so consequently, attempts that are being made to privatize water is considered to be an attempt to take away a fundamental right of individuals. Having a right to water does not also imply that the state has the right to pollute it. Individuals do not only have the right to water, but that water must be in a state that can contribute to their development. Resolution 1803 of the United Nations General Assembly clearly states that peoples do have a right to own their natural resources. Thirdly, the Declaration also provides for economic, social, and cultural rights of the indigenous people. In fact, if time permits us, we should dive into the work of the ILO, the International Labour Organization, in as far as the implementation of some of these rights of indigenous persons are concerned. Furthermore, number 4, indigenous persons do enjoy collective rights. It's a collective right that they enjoy. Number 5, the Declaration addresses the issue of equality and non-discrimination. Equality and non-discrimination. But then, what's the status of this declaration? As I have said, the declaration is not formally binding. The declaration is not a treaty, despite the fact that it contains rights, despite the fact that it provides for obligations of nation states. What is therefore needed? What is needed is to elevate, is to adopt, finally, an international agreement, an international treaty, in the vein as following the 1948 Declaration on Universal Rights of Persons, to elevate the rights of indigenous persons. In addition to this declaration, you may want to look at the ILO